Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
The air in Port Charles had taken on the crisp, decisive quality of late October, a sharpness that seemed to cut through the usual facades and force raw, unvarnished truths to the surface. The turning of the leaves mirrored the tumultuous shifts in the lives of the city's residents, where a single revelation could strip away the past as easily as a gust of wind bears a branch. This particular week promised not just one, but a cascade of such revelations, each with the power to redefine families, shatter alliances, and alter futures forever. The heavy, ornate door of the Quartermain mansion swung shut with a thud that echoed through the grand foyer like a pronouncement. Tracy Quartermain, her posture rigid with a lifetime of practiced composure, stood facing her brother, Ned. The air between them was thick with decades of shared history, rivalry, and a love that was often expressed through barbed comments and fierce competition. But today, the usual familial sparring was absent, replaced by a chilling gravity. "You're sure about this?" Tracy stated, her voice not quite a question. Ned, looking older and more weary than he had in years, ran a hand over his face. The weight of the secret he had carried, the truth of his identity as Eddie Main and the tangled web of amnesia that had both freed and trapped him, was a physical burden on his shoulders. "I've never been more sure of anything, Tracy. The fragments, they've been coming back for weeks. At first, it was just feelings, disorienting flashes. A song lyric. The smell of an old guitar case. Then, pieces of conversations. Olivia, finding me. The look on her face." He paused, the memory visibly painful. Living a half-life, a lie, even an unintentional one, it's a poison. It seeps into everything. It's time to drain the wound, no matter how much it hurts. Tracy's sharp eyes softened imperceptibly. She, of all people, understood the corrosive nature of secrets. The Quartermain legacy was built upon them. "And you think just announcing it will help? You saw what the initial revelation did to Leo. He's just a boy, Ned. He doesn't understand the complexities of dissociative states or temporary amnesia. All he knows is that his father disappeared and then came back as a different person. And keeping him in the dark is better?" Ned countered, his voice rising with a hint of desperation. "Letting him live with a ghost? I was a ghost, Tracy, haunting my own life. I need him to know that his real father is back. That the man who sang him silly songs and the man standing here now are one and the same. I have to make Olivia understand that when I was Eddie, the love I felt for her, for our family, was the most real thing I've ever experienced. It was the core of me that even my scrambled mind couldn't erase." He moved to the window, looking out over the manicured lawns that had witnessed so much Quartermain drama. The company, the money, the reputation, it all feels so hollow now. This isn't about ELQ or my position. This is about my soul, Tracy. I need to reclaim it. And I have to start by telling the truth, to everyone, all at once. No more whispers in corners, no more pitying looks. A clean break. Tracy sighed, a rare sound of surrender. A clean break? In this family? You're dreaming, little brother. But I'll be there. When you do this idiotic, noble thing, I'll be there. Someone has to pick up the pieces." She turned and walked away, leaving Ned alone with his resolve, the silence of the mansion pressing in on him. He knew she was right. There would be no clean break, only a messy, painful new beginning. That messy beginning was already taking shape across town at the Metro Court Pool, where Brooklyn and Chase had decided to steal a rare, quiet moment with their daughter, Bailey Louise. The sunlight dappled on the water, and the baby's gurgles of delight should have been the only sound. But the tension between the couple was a palpable third presence. "I just think we need to be prepared for anything," Chase said, his voice low, his eyes fixed on his daughter as she splashed her hands in the shallow end. "My father is about to detonate a bomb in the middle of our family. The fallout, we don't know where the shrapnel will land." Brooklyn adjusted the wide-brimmed sun hat on Bailey's head, her movements tense. "I know, Chase. And I love your father, I do. But we have to protect her." She nodded toward the baby. Our first priority is this little girl. Our family. If this revelation causes a media circus, or if it draws more unwanted attention from my mother's messes or your family's turmoil, we need to have a plan. A united front. Chase finally looked at her, his expression pained. A united front. Does that include finally telling my father the truth about Bailey Louise? Our own secret feels like a ticking time bomb next to his. The question hung in the air between them, heavier than the humid poolside breeze. The truth about Bailey Louise's parentage, that she was not Brooke Lynn's biological child but the daughter of the late Louise August, a secret they had vowed to keep to protect her, was the foundational stone of their little family. To expose it now felt akin to risking an earthquake. We can't, Brooke Lynn whispered, her voice fierce with a maternal protectiveness that had become her guiding force. Not now. One earthquake at a time, Chase. Your father's confession is about his past. Ours would define her entire future. We agreed. We protect her, no matter what. Chase reached out and took her hand, lacing his fingers with hers. The connection was solid, familiar, but the anxiety thrumming through both of them was undeniable. They were a fortress, but the walls felt thinner today. No matter what, he echoed, the vow feeling both like a shield and a weight. The epicenter of the impending quake, Ned, was already setting his plan in motion. He found Olivia in their home, meticulously arranging flowers in a vase, a picture of domestic normalcy that felt like a cruel parody of their recent life. Olivia, he began, his voice steady despite the frantic beating of his heart. We need to talk. Properly. No interruptions. Olivia's hands stilled. She didn't look at him, but her shoulders tensed. She had been dreading this moment, hoping the fragile peace they had built would hold. Ned, if this is about the ELQ board meeting, I really don't have the energy. It's not about ELQ, he interrupted gently. It's about me. It's about us. It's about everything that's happened since I woke up as Eddie. Finally, she turned, her beautiful face a mask of apprehension and weary love. What about it? I remember, Liv, he said, the simplicity of the statement belying its complexity. Not everything. Not all at once. It's like a radio slowly tuning into a station, fighting through the static. But I remember enough. I remember you finding me. I remember the fear and the hope in your eyes. I remember feeling, for the first time in months, a connection to something real. To you. Tears welled in Olivia's eyes, but she brushed them away angrily. You remember feeling a connection? Ned, you were my husband. You are my husband. We have a life, a son, and you left. You walked out of that hospital and you became someone else. And now you remember a connection? It was more than a connection. Ned insisted, stepping closer. It was love, Olivia. A pure, uncomplicated love that wasn't bogged down by quartermain expectations or past arguments or the million tiny resentments that build up in a marriage. It was the essence of what we were, before life got in the way. Don't you see? Eddie loved you with the heart that Ned always had but was too busy or too proud to always show. His words were a desperate plea, an attempt to bridge the chasm between his two selves. For Olivia, it was a confusing torrent. Was she being asked to celebrate the love her husband had for her while he was another man? To forgive the abandonment because the fugue state version of him had been more emotionally available? I need time, Ned, she said, her voice trembling. You can't just drop this on me and expect me to understand what it even means. You're asking me to reconcile two different people into one, and my heart doesn't work that fast. I'm not asking you to reconcile anything, Ned said, his own frustration beginning to show. I'm just asking you to see me. The whole me. The man who can run a multi-billion-dollar corporation and the man who wrote a song for you on a rainy Tuesday afternoon because the way you smiled reminded him of the first time he fell in love. They are both me, Olivia. And I am done pretending otherwise. He turned and walked out, leaving Olivia alone with the beautifully arranged flowers and a heart that felt more shattered than ever. The truth had been set free, but its first act was not liberation, it was devastation. While the Quartermaines braced for impact, another storm was brewing at the Port Charles Police Department. Dante Falconeri sat across from his father, Sonny Corinthos, in a stark interrogation room. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a cold, unflattering glow. "I'm only going to ask you this once, Dad," Dante said, his tone strictly professional, a shield against the storm of personal history between them. "Where were you on the night of the 18th, between 9 p.m. and midnight?" Sonny leaned back in his chair, his expression a carefully neutral mask, but his eyes held a flicker of paternal disappointment. "You're questioning me as a detective now? Not as my son?" "At this moment, in this room, I am Detective Falconeri," Dante replied, his jaw tight. "And you are a person of interest in an ongoing investigation. Your known associations and certain patterns have come up. So, I'll ask again. Your whereabouts?" The patterns Dante referred to were the unspoken specter of Sonny's bipolar disorder. In the past, during untreated or poorly managed episodes, Sonny's behavior could become erratic, impulsive, and sometimes violent. The department, and Dante personally, were acutely aware that stress could be a trigger. "I was at home," Sonny said evenly. "With Carly. We had dinner, watched a movie. You can check with her. You can check the security cameras at the house. I didn't leave." Dante made a note, his pen scratching against the paper. The sound was unnaturally loud in the small room. "And your phone?" "We have records of several calls to and from numbers linked to known associates of Jason Morgan." There it was. The name that hung over the Corinthos family like a shroud. Jason's return from the dead, or more accurately, his return from a hidden life, had sent seismic shocks through the entire organization. Sonny's mask slipped for a fraction of a second, a flash of anger in his dark eyes. "Jason is my friend. A friend I thought was dead for years. Forgive me if I've been in touch with him. That's not a crime." Associating with a known individual with ties to organized criminal activity can be construed as relevant to an investigation, Dante stated coolly. Especially when that investigation involves a violent assault. "We're trying to determine if this was a random act or a targeted message. Your current state of mind, your recent stressors, they are factors, Sonny. You know they are." The implication was clear, and it struck a nerve. Sonny stood up, his chair scraping back. "My state of mind is fine. I am handling my business. I am managing my health. And I don't appreciate my own son using my diagnosis as a weapon against me. It's not a weapon, it's a concern." Dante shot back, his professional demeanor cracking. "Damn it, Dad, I'm not just a cop in this room. I'm your son. I've seen what happens when you're not handling it. I've seen the fallout. If you're in trouble, if you're being set up, or if you're slipping, you need to tell me. Before this gets worse." The raw worry in Dante's voice gave Sonny pause. He sat back down, the fight draining out of him, replaced by a profound weariness. "I'm not slipping, Dante. I promise you. I'm under a lot of pressure, yes. Jason's return has complicated things. But I am in control. You have to trust me." But trust, in Port Charles, was the most fragile currency of all. As Dante continued his questioning, the divide between father and son, between cop and criminal, felt wider and more desolate than ever. The pressure Sonny mentioned was manifesting in other parts of his life, particularly at his restaurant, Charlie's. Carly Corinthos, ever the warrior in designer clothing, was there, trying to focus on inventory, but her mind was a whirlwind of anxiety. The door chimed, and in walked John Jagger Cates. The years had etched lines on his face, but the intensity in his eyes was undimmed. He and Carly had a history, a complicated tapestry of youthful romance, missed chances, and the shared, painful memory of his brother, Stone Cates. "Carly," Jagger said, his voice a low rumble. She looked up, startled from her thoughts. "Jagger. What are you doing here?" Her tone was wary. His reappearance in Port Charles had coincided with a rise in tension, and Carly had learned long ago that coincidences were rarely benign. "I heard Dante brought Sonny in for questioning," he said, getting straight to the point. "I came to see if you were okay." A bitter laugh escaped Carly's lips. "Okay? My husband, the father of my children, is being investigated for a violent crime, possibly because of his mental health history, and his own son is leading the charge." "What part of that sounds okay to you, Jagger?" "The part where you're standing here, alone, trying to hold everything together like you always do," he replied, stepping closer. "I know you, Carly. You put on a brave face for the world, but you're scared." His perception unnerved her. Jagger had always seen through her defenses in a way few others could. "Of course I'm scared," she admitted, her voice dropping. "I'm terrified. For Sonny, for our family, for what this could all mean. It feels like the walls are closing in, and every time we think we have a handle on things, something else explodes." "Maybe you don't have to face it alone," Jagger said, his gaze intent. "I'm not the same kid I was back then. I have resources. I have perspective. Let me help you." Carly shook her head, crossing her arms over her chest as if to physically ward off his offer. "Help how, Jagger?" "By digging into things that are better left buried? By stirring up more trouble? Sonny's world, it's a minefield. The last thing I need is another person wandering through it with a lit match." "I'm not a lit match, Carly. I'm a fire extinguisher," he countered. "I know about pressure. I know about being pushed to the edge. And I know what it's like to watch someone you love struggle and not know how to reach them." He was, of course, alluding to his brother Stone's battle with AIDS and his own helplessness. The ghost of Stone was always present between them. His words, laced with a shared, ancient pain, found their mark. Carly's defenses wavered. The sheer weight of carrying Sonny's burdens, the children's fears, and the constant scrutiny was exhausting. The idea of sharing that load, even for a moment, was dangerously tempting. "I can't," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "It's not that simple." "It never is," Jagger said softly. "But the offer stands. Always." He turned and left, leaving Carly more conflicted than before. His presence was a reminder of a simpler past, a path not taken, and his offer of help felt like both a lifeline and a potential betrayal. Betrayal was a concept Christina Corinthos Davis was grappling with in a deeply personal way. She sat with Molly Lansing Davis, the two sisters a study in contrasts, Christina, fiery and passionate, Molly, calm and logical, though currently her logic was frayed at the edges. "I just don't understand what you're waiting for, Molly," Christina said, her voice filled with sisterly frustration. "The signs are all there. TJ is distracted, he's working late constantly, he's emotionally distant, and you said you found a receipt for a jewelry store. A necklace. When was the last time he bought you jewelry for no reason?" Molly twisted her wedding ring around her finger, a nervous habit. "It could be for his mother. Or a colleague. It doesn't automatically mean he's having an affair, Chrissy. We're under a lot of stress. The hospital, trying to start a family, it's been hard." "Hard is one thing. This is another," Christina insisted. "You can't just stick your head in the sand. If he's cheating, you need to know. You deserve to know. You're a lawyer, for God's sake. Investigate. Demand answers." "It's not that easy," Molly snapped, her composure breaking. "This is my marriage. This is TJ. The man I've loved since I was a teenager. If I go down this road, if I start snooping through his phone or following him, there's no going back. I either find nothing and have to live with the shame of not trusting him, or I find something and my entire world falls apart. So forgive me if I'm not rushing to tear it all down on a feeling and a receipt." Her outburst was met with silence. Christina reached out and put a hand over her sister's. "I'm sorry. I just hate seeing you like this. You're the strongest person I know. And you deserve to be with someone who looks at you like you're the only woman in the world." If it's not TJ anymore, she trailed off, the unspoken conclusion hanging in the air. Molly's eyes filled with tears. That's just it, Chrissy. Most of the time, he still does. That's what makes this so confusing. It's these little moments of absence. Like part of him is somewhere else. I keep hoping it's just the stress, that we'll get through it. But hope was a fragile shield against the sharp arrows of suspicion. Later that day, Molly's fears were horrifically confirmed, though not in the way she had expected. She had decided to take a chance, to try and reconnect, and went to the hospital to surprise TJ with lunch. She found him not in his office, but in a quiet corner of the doctor's lounge, deep in conversation with a woman Molly didn't recognize. The woman was beautiful, and she was crying. And TJ was holding her hand, his expression one of profound intimacy and concern. Molly froze, hidden by the doorframe. She watched as the woman leaned into him, and TJ wrapped his arms around her in a comforting, familiar embrace. It wasn't explicitly romantic, but the level of emotional closeness, the sheer privacy of the moment, felt like a physical blow. This was not a doctor comforting a patient. This was something else. Something more. She backed away silently, her heart hammering in her chest. The lunch bag fell from her numb fingers, landing on the floor with a soft thud she didn't even hear. The truth she had been desperately trying to avoid had found her. And it was more painful and more complicated than she had ever imagined. As Molly's world tilted on its axis, another long-dreaded confrontation was finally coming to a head. Ava Jerome, armed with the poisonous knowledge she had meticulously gathered, cornered Nina Reeves in the secluded greenhouse of the Jerome Gallery. The air was thick with the scent of orchids and impending doom. "It's over, Nina," Ava said, her voice like polished steel. "The charade. The pathetic little performance you've been putting on for months." Nina, who had been admiring a rare black orchid, turned slowly, her face a mask of feigned confusion. "Ava, I have no idea what you're talking about. If this is about the article in The Invader." "This is about everything," Ava interrupted, a cruel smile playing on her lips. "This is about Sunny. This is about Carly. This is about the fact that you never learn. You cling to your righteous victimhood like a security blanket, all while actively destroying the lives of everyone around you." Nina's composure began to crack. "I have done nothing wrong. I have tried to move on, to build a life with my daughter. A daughter you only found because of the very chaos you claim to despise," Ava shot back. "But we're not here to talk about the past. We're here to talk about the present. I know what you did. I know about the phone call. The one you made to the SEC anonymously, of course, reporting Carly for insider trading." Nina's blood ran cold. She took a step back, her hand gripping the edge of a potting table for support. "That's a lie." "Is it?" Ava purred, pulling out her phone. "I have a source, Nina. A very well-placed source who has access to records that are supposed to be sealed. Records that trace that call back to a burner phone. A burner phone that was purchased with a credit card. A credit card that has your name on it." The world seemed to shrink to the space between them. Nina's mind raced, scrambling for a defense, an explanation. It was a mistake. I didn't know what I was doing. I was hurt, I was angry after everything with Sunny and Carly." "Save your pathetic excuses for someone who might actually believe them," Ava sneered. "The point is, I have the proof. And I'm going to give you a choice. A very simple one. You can leave Port Charles. You can pack your bags, take your daughter, and disappear. Or, I will take this information directly to Sunny and Carly. I will show them, once and for all, that the woman they've tried to forgive, the woman who plays the wounded bird, is in fact a venomous snake who will stop at nothing to make them pay for your own unhappiness." Nina felt a wave of pure, undiluted terror. This was it. This was the moment her house of cards collapsed. Sunny would never forgive her. Carly would have her head on a platter. She would lose any chance of a relationship with Wiley, and she would devastate Willow. "You can't," Nina whispered, her voice ragged. I can, and I will, Ava stated, her tone leaving no room for argument. You have 48 hours, Nina. Make your choice. Leave gracefully, or be destroyed. The clock is ticking. Ava turned and walked out of the greenhouse, leaving Nina alone amidst the beautiful, fragile flowers. She sank to her knees, the damp earth seeping through her expensive slacks. The walls she had so carefully constructed were crumbling, and there was no one left to help her rebuild. She was utterly, terrifyingly alone. As night fell over Port Charles, the consequences of the day's confrontations began to ripple outward. At the Quartermain mansion, the big talk Ned had insisted upon was underway. The drawing room felt more like a courtroom. Olivia sat stiffly on a settee, her face pale. Brooklyn and Chase stood together, a united but anxious front. Tracy presided over the scene from her wingback chair, a skeptical eyebrow arched. Ned stood in the center of the room, looking at his family. I've asked you all here because you deserve to hear this from me, he began, his voice resonating in the quiet room. The last year has been the most disorienting and clarifying of my life. I lost myself. I became Eddie Main. And in doing so, I found a part of myself I didn't know was missing. He looked directly at Olivia. I know I hurt you. I know my absence, both physical and emotional, caused you immeasurable pain. For that, I am so deeply sorry. But I cannot, and I will not, apologize for who I was during that time. Eddie's love for you, for music, for a simpler life, it wasn't a lie. It was a truth that had been buried under a mountain of responsibility and expectation. I am back, but I am not just Ned Quartermain anymore. I am a man who has lived 2 lives, and I need to find a way to integrate them. To be whole. The silence that followed was profound. It was Brooklyn who finally spoke, her voice soft. We're glad you're back, Dad. Truly. We need time to process what back really means. It was a sentiment echoed throughout the city. At the police station, Sonny was finally released, the evidence against him too circumstantial to hold him. But the damage was done. The look in Dante's eyes as he unlocked the interrogation room door was one his father knew he would carry for a long time, a mix of duty, love, and profound distrust. Carly was waiting for him outside. She didn't say a word, just wrapped her arms around him. The embrace was tight, desperate. Over Sonny's shoulder, Carly's eyes met Jagger's, who was watching from a discreet distance across the street. He gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod before melting back into the shadows. The offer of help still stood, a dangerous temptation now forever lodged in her mind. And in the quiet of their home, Molly faced TJ. The surprise was gone from her face, replaced by a cold, calm resolve. We need to talk, she said, her voice eerily steady. TJ, looking exhausted, nodded. I know. I saw the lunch bag on the floor outside the lounge. Who is she? Molly asked, the question direct and sharp as a scalpel. TJ sighed, a sound of utter defeat. Her name is Simone. She's an old friend from medical school. She's going through a divorce. A really nasty one. She has no one here in Port Charles. She reached out to me for support. Support that involves holding hands and intimate embraces? Molly's voice trembled slightly, betraying the calm facade. It's not what you think, Molly, TJ insisted, his eyes pleading. I love you. Only you. But she's fragile. She was talking about not wanting to go on. I was comforting a friend who was in crisis. That's all. Molly wanted to believe him. The logical part of her brain, the lawyer, saw the plausibility. But the wife, the woman who had felt his distance for months, saw the cracks in the story. The emotional energy he was pouring into this Simone was energy that was not going into their marriage, into their attempts to build a family. I want to believe you, TJ, she whispered. But I don't know if I can. I think you should stay at your mother's tonight. I need some space to think. The hurt in his eyes was genuine, but it did little to soothe the ache in her heart. Trust, once fractured, was not easily mended. As the clock ticked past midnight, officially ushering in Halloween, Port Charles was a city of ghosts. Not the fictional, costumed kind, but the very real specters of past mistakes, present betrayals, and future uncertainties. Ned's truth had set him on a path to wholeness, but it had left his family fractured. Sonny's freedom was shadowed by his son's suspicion and his wife's secret alliance. Molly's marriage was hanging by a thread, sustained by a story she desperately wanted to believe. And Nina sat in the dark of her penthouse, staring at a suitcase, with Ava's ultimatum echoing in her mind, a ghost of her own making, demanding a price she wasn't sure she could pay. The week of October 27th had begun with the promise of spoilers, of tantalizing hints of drama. But as it drew to a close, the residents of Port Charles were left with the stark, unvarnished reality that the scariest monsters were not the ones who came out on Halloween, but the ones they created themselves, and the terrifying, exhilarating, and devastating truth that always, eventually, came to light.